and good evening. As we continue to confront the China virus, we're rebuilding America's economy like nobody thought possible, actually. We're doing incredibly well. Stock market's up almost 300 points again today. While our economy is performing significantly better than Europe, which people have to understand very strongly, it's performing better than any market anywhere in the world, actually. At the same time, Europe has experienced a 40% higher excess mortality than the United States. And I will say that that's a significant number. We're working with Europe on their difficulties, and we are going to help them all the way. We're doing very well, as you know, in the vaccines and the therapeutics, but think of that. We have the strongest economy, performing economy in the world. We're up, I think it's $9 trillion since March, $9 trillion in value. That's a number that nobody's ever heard of before. We're also getting close to about a 50% number since March, which is incredible. So it's $9 trillion, it's almost 50%. In fact, I think it went above 50% today with the 300-point increase. And it's so we're doing much better than Europe significantly. And at the same time, Europe has experienced a 40% higher excess mortality than the United States. I just want to mention, because another number of judges were approved recently, will be probably over 300 judges, federal judges, including Court of Appeals judges, approved by the end of my first term. And other than when they added new judges into somebody's term, which happens seldom, but we have more than any. There's a record. Nobody's ever seen anything like this in one term. So we're going to have over 300 federal judges, and that's Court of Appeals judges, and that's just in the first term. It probably will finish out over 300, which is pretty amazing. The stock market's rebound signals a V-shaped recovery, stronger than our competitors anywhere in the world, stronger. If you look, you'll see exactly what we have. We lead the world. Japan is second, but in terms of dollar value, it's not even close. So there it is. A lot of great competitors: Europe, United Kingdom, Japan, China, Hong Kong. The United States is leading the world very substantially. And the second slide, you'll see the virus-induced economic contraction in the United States has been far less severe than it was with our peers and peer nations. And you see that right there. There's the United States. And that's despite the fact that we've done more testing than any other nation in the world. That we've done more by far ventilators. We're building thousands and thousands of ventilators a month, and we're distributing them all over the world. We're helping other countries. But despite all of these factors, the shallowest contraction, which is a big deal. I'm sure you'd love to put them in your various media outlets. I know you want to get that out. If you want to leave the room early and do that, that will be fine. The rapid recovery, but it would be nice to report it. The rapid recovery of home builders sentiment points to massive new construction, and we are doing massive amounts of construction of new homes, and that's because people have tremendous confidence. This is where we went, and the housing market has quickly rebounded. We were at a record, and now we're going to be at a record again very shortly. Those numbers are incredible. That's where we are. We had to turn off the economy, and now we're turning it back on, and that's beyond a V shape. This is going to be very strong. It's called a strong V. Automobile demand has increased 65% over the last 3 months. 65% automobile demand. And we're anticipating that that's going to go up even further, but that's more than anybody else. The manufacturing sector, remember, manufacturing is dead according to the past administration of Obama and Biden. Manufacturing is dead. You need a magic wand. Well, you don't need a magic wand. You need competence and capability. The manufacturing sector is booming, and the production index is at the highest reading since October of 18, which was an extraordinary period of time. And there we are. That's pretty good. These are numbers that nobody has seen until just recently, and now they're just coming out. These are numbers that are leading, I guess, stock market people. They're very smart people. I know many of them, and they're seeing things that they don't even believe. So the manufacturing sector is booming, and the production index is at its highest reading in a long, long time. The economy generated over 9 million jobs in the last 3 years, a record by far, and 12 million more jobs than experts predicted. So there you are. You look at that, and that's a record, and it's a record for the quarter. We had over 9 million, substantially more than 9 million jobs. So those are incredible numbers about our economy and how it's coming back. It's coming back very strongly. It's coming back at a level that's far greater than anybody anticipated. And we're very proud of that. And I give a lot of credit to all of our people, Steve and Larry. And we'll be talking about it if you have any questions on it. I shouldn't have any questions. I didn't print those charts. Who did? The economy generated, let's see, I don't know, we'll find that out for you, but it wasn't us. We took those numbers from somebody. Where did you get those numbers, Larry? They're from where?
It's from BLS Jobs Report.
BLS Jobs.
Monthly Jobs Report through July.
Okay, everybody has that, everybody needs. The Democrats have abandoned the American people over the simple subject of politics. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are holding the American people hostage over money for their radical left-wing agenda that the country doesn't want and won't accept. For example, they've asked for a ridiculous $3.5 billion, that's billion, $3.5 billion for universal mail-in voting, a system riddled by fraud and corruption. You just look at what happened with the Carolyn Maloney race. They should do that race over, by the way. I think her opponent is right when he is having fits about that race. When you look at the ballots that are missing and the ballot frauds, nobody knows what's going on with that race, and yet they declared her a winner. So her opponent, I don't know what's happened over the last 24 hours, but her opponent is rightfully going a little bit crazy. And then you look at what happened in Virginia, where they have 500,000 applications sent out at random to people that have no idea what happened, and they admitted they made a mistake. And many were sent to dead people, many were sent to, number were sent, I guess two, that at least 2, 3, 4 were sent to dogs, one was sent to a cat. They're sent all over the place. That was in Virginia and Paterson, New Jersey. They had a massive amount of voter fraud, and it's been a disaster. Paterson, New Jersey, has been a total disaster. That's universal mail-in voting. So they want $3.5 billion for universal mail-in voting for the country, where you have hundreds of millions of voters. They can't do a little race with 20,000 people. Now they want to take it countrywide mail-in voting. It's going to be the greatest fraud in the history of elections. When you always talk about Russia, China, Iran on voting, your biggest problem is going to be with the Democrats, not with China, Russia, and Iran. Your biggest problem is going to be with the Democrats. But now the Democrats, they want $3.5 billion, think of it. But now that they're unwilling to approve a bill that gives all of that money, of course we would never approve an amount like that, and they also want $25 billion additional for the post office, Steve, $25 billion for the post office, so the post office can handle this vast amount of ballots that are being sent at random all over the place. They have no idea where they're going. So they want 25 billion, and they want, think of this, they want 3.5 billion. Would you say that's enough to cover it? I think we could do it for less, right? I think we could do it for less. But they want 25 billion for the post office because of this. And remember, the new man, who's a great person, a great businessman, just got there a little while ago. The post office has been run poorly for many, many decades. Great people in the post office, incredible people, but they've had very bad leadership for many years, so we'll get it straightened out. But they turned down this bill because they want radical left agenda items that nobody in their right mind would approve. So they want 25 billion for the post office. They want 2.5, with 3.5 billion dollars for universal mailing, 3.5 billion, and the bill's not going to happen because they don't even want to talk about it, because we can't give them the kind of ridiculous things that they want that have nothing to do with the China virus. It has nothing at all to do with China virus, much of what they're asking for. So therefore, they don't have the money to do the universal mail-in voting. So therefore, they can't do it, I guess, right? Are they going to do it, and even though they don't have the money? They're asking for the 3.5 billion. They're asking for 25 billion for the post office so they can do this, I guess, and other things. At 25, I would hope it would be a lot of other things too. But therefore, they don't have it. They don't have the money to do the universal mail-in votes. It'll be the greatest rigged election in history. It'll be the greatest fraud ever perpetrated, other than perhaps what they did to my campaign, where they spied on my campaign, President Obama, Biden, and everybody else. And they got caught. Let's see what happens. This will be one of the greatest frauds in history. So they're admitting that they want 3.5 billion, and they're not going to do a deal that's good for the American people. Therefore, they're not going to get the 3.5 billion. Therefore, they can't do the universal mail-in vote. It's very simple. How are they going to do it if they don't have the money to do it? The Democrats are also holding up money for schools and hospitals and small businesses and state and local governments. They tried to stop Americans from getting unemployment insurance and protection from evictions, which is why I took this decisive action. And I did executive orders, which are now in full force and effect. And they're going forward. I signed a directive to provide a total of $400 of additional support for Americans who are unemployed due to the China virus. That's $400 more than the Democrats have provided. Remember that. That's $400 more than the Democrats have provided. Nancy and Chuck haven't provided anything. And remember this, President Obama, when we had a problem, a pretty big problem, a very big problem, you know what he gave? $25. He gave 25 bucks. So now they say, well, we want to give 500 or we want to give 600. They don't want to give anything. They're not doing anything. But President Obama and Biden, Sleepy Joe, gave $25. 25. And they'll complain, oh, we want to give more. Well, we're giving $400, and that's now in the works, and that'll be getting out to the people soon, Steve, okay? Remember that, $25 is what they gave the last time, 25. I want to make it unmistakably clear that I'm protecting people from evictions. They didn't want to do that. The Democrats didn't want to do a protection from evictions, people getting evicted because of the coronavirus or the China virus, whatever you want to call it. We have 20, now we're up to 21 different names. All we know is it came out of China and it shouldn't have. They should have stopped it. Under my executive order, HUD, HHS, and CDC have been directed to ensure renters and homeowners that they can stay safely in their homes. They're not going to be evicted. They are not going to be evicted. And those letters have already been sent out, Steve, so you'll make sure of that. I'm providing a payroll tax holiday to all Americans earning less than $100,000 per year, meaning bigger paychecks for working families through the end of 2020. That's a tremendous amount of money that's being supplied and given to families. Tremendous. The Democrats didn't want to do a payroll tax. They thought it was too much money, I guess, or it would make businesses too successful. They don't want to see success. They certainly don't want to see it before the election. They certainly don't want to see the kind of graphs and charts that you saw up there. They don't, because they say they can't win with that kind of success. They can't win. They have to get used to it. Remember, we've already gotten $3 trillion in stimulus, so they should have probably negotiated a little bit differently. Maybe they should have asked for all of this before we got most of the money and we gave it out, a lot of it to the people. When we win the election, when I win the election, I'm going to completely and totally forgive all deferred payroll taxes without in any way, shape, or form hurting Social Security. That money is going to come from the general fund. We're not going to touch Social Security. I said from day one that we're going to protect Social Security, and we're going to protect our people. And Social Security is one of the things that will be protected. Pre-existing conditions will be protected. Medicare will be protected. But Social Security will be totally protected under me. Under them, it will not be protected because we will have a stock market crash, the likes of which you've never seen. Your taxes will be doubled and tripled. And your regulations will go through the roof, which is what was causing the problems with the country in the first place. Student loans. I signed a directive providing relief to student borrowers. Not their fault that they can't go to college. I will be deferring payments on student loans at zero interest until further notice. So we're going to take care of our students. Got a lot of great students out there, and they got hit like everybody else. So I will be deferring payments on student loans at zero interest until further notice. And on the payroll tax, we'll be terminating the payroll tax after I hopefully get elected. We'll be terminating the payroll tax, so that will mean anywhere from $5,000 to even more per family, and also great for businesses and great for jobs. A lot of people will be very happy to hear that. A lot of the great, certainly conservative economists will be great to have. They think that's the greatest thing we can do. That's better than the payments. That's better than anything else. But it's a lot of money, and it's going right directly to the people, and it goes there very easily. But it also creates stronger companies to employ the people. So we will be, on the assumption I win, we are going to be terminating the payroll tax after the beginning of the new year. Today I met with parents, students, teachers, and health experts to discuss the vital importance of safety and safely reopening America's schools. This evening I'll outline the common sense recommendations that should guide schools as they reopen with precautions. We want to be very, very safe and very careful, so precautions in place. Our strategy to safely reopen schools mirrors our approach nationwide as we race toward the competition and the completion. We're competing with others, but I'm not competing with anyone. We just want to have a vaccine. We're dealing with other countries, and we want them to do well. We're giving them whatever information they need. We're all working toward something that will happen before the end of the year, maybe substantially before, but before the end of the year. And therapeutics will happen likewise even sooner. But we're looking for that responsible path forward to shelter those at highest risk while allowing those at lower risk to resume work and school and play football. Go play football. I spoke to some of the great football players, college players, Trevor, and a lot of great players called Coach O. A lot of fantastic people I got to speak to, athletes, leaders. They want to play football. Let them play. Let them play. And they feel safer on the field than they do walking around and doing nothing. So hopefully that will happen, and hopefully when they play football, they will proudly stand for the national anthem, and they will proudly stand and respect the American flag. Or at least I'm not watching, I can't speak for others, but based on what I see now and based on what I'm looking at with respect to the NBA at this point, a lot of people agree with me. So we want people, we would like to request people, you stand proudly for the flag and for the national anthem. In the months since the virus arrived, we've learned a great deal. Well, this is a dangerous and highly infectious disease. It primarily affects the oldest segment of our population or those with chronic health issues. The United States has the largest nursing home and assisted living home population in the Western world by far. Nearly half of all of the deaths from the China virus in the United States have occurred in nursing homes and long-term care facilities. The median age of those who succumb to the virus is 78 years old. These findings underscore that all Americans must continue to apply extreme vigilance in protecting our elderly population and those with chronic conditions. Outcomes are very different for younger Americans without serious health issues, tremendously different. They can often expect mild or moderate symptoms or even no symptoms whatsoever. They have very strong immune systems. We've learned even more so than we ever thought. In a typical year, approximately 5 times as many Americans under the age of 65 die from heart disease as have so far been lost to the coronavirus from the same age group. That's an interesting statistic. Plus, blessedly, children appear to face the lowest risk of all. It's 99.995% of all fatalities are adults. Think of that, 99.95. That is extremely close to 100% of all fatalities are adults. Children often have only mild symptoms, and medical complications are incredibly rare, very, very, very rare. Those that do face complications often have underlying medical conditions. In each of the last 5 years, the flu resulted in more deaths of those under 18 in the United States than have been lost thus far to coronavirus by far. The flu does kill young people. Given these considerations, we believe many school districts can now reopen safely, provided they implement mitigation measures and health protocols to protect families, protect teachers, and protect students. All families should be empowered to make the decision that is right for their own circumstances. This is especially important if a child has underlying health conditions or lives with a parent or grandparent who is at a high risk. And one of the things we'd like to do is when we make payment to schools, because we spend a lot of money on schools, we'd like to make the payment directly to the student or to the child. And that would mean to the parents essentially, but to the child. We want to follow the child so that if a school is closed, the family can go to another school, maybe in another area, but they can do it, and we'd like to make that payment. Rather than paying a school that's closed, we'd rather pay directly. We're following the child, where the child goes, and we want to pay the family, pay the child, and then the family can take care of the cost. And we're trying to get that approved too, but the Democrats don't like doing anything unless it means doing for the union, which controls Nancy and controls Chuck 100%. And I have nothing wrong with the union. I have great respect, very few people do I respect more than a great teacher. It's a tremendous talent. They're really underappreciated. These are phenomenal people with tremendous talent. The great ones are among the most important people we have in this country. And they'll be great they'll be great at charter schools. And they'll be great at, when we talk about school choice, which we'd like to see so that parents can take their children to the school of their choice. That's something we